This is David of the School of David. Welcome again to another edition. I think I've been mixing up things some time now. I've been doing the Pioneer series, and then I've also been doing the Marketplace series. I began with the Marketplace series, and the first thing we did was the public or the immature, and then we did the city and the market as a spiritual construct, and then we did how the world works, and then now I want to deal with something I'm calling the shadow of error. The shadow of error, based on Ephesians chapter 6, which sort of like gives us the social structure of society, especially how it is managed or controlled by the prevailing principled diabolical forces, for that matter. And the interesting thing about the book of Ephesians is there are 6 chapters, and one thing I love the book of Ephesians for is before you jump into the warfare chapter, you have to pass through the love chapter. Before you jump into the warfare chapter, you have to pass through the love chapter. So it is very interesting to just see that God begins with Ephesians chapter 5, where husbands love your wife as Christ has loved the church, wives submitting to their husbands. It spills over to chapter 6 in the beginning. Children, obey your parents, and then fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath, which is a very interesting affair. So before you go to the war part of things, or the societal part of war, if you could say so, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness of this age, spiritual wickedness in high places, he has already introduced the government of family. And family, first of all, prevail in terms of family, father, husband, wife, child, but also just the familial, if you could say so, the government of the family, if you could say so. Family, produces tribal community societies. So the concept of family and the unit of family, so those go hand in hand. And Paul is saying how you learn, or the revelation of learning how to govern the familial, or the revelation of learning how to govern the family as a concept or as a revelation, is a big foundation towards engaging principalities, powers, rulers of darkness of this age, and spiritual wickedness in high places. That's a stray. I've gone on the stray on the bit a bit. Let me come back so that I don't get away from this topic very quickly. So today I want to deal with what I'm calling the shadow of error, and I'm just sharing my thoughts. This is a document I did like how many years ago, like 12 years ago, but I think it's still relevant because principalities and powers are still here. Principalities and powers are still here. They have not departed at all. They're still here, and they're still disturbing people, for that matter. And I want us to just check that structure. Principalities, powers, rulers of darkness of this age, spiritual wickedness in high places. For some reason, we have a sense in which we interpret that from a hierarchical perspective. Principalities, which is Rosh, or that which comes first. That's how it's defined. That which comes, where we get the concept of principle. That which comes first. Powers is the executive order committee, if you could say so. Executive, that which legislates. That which legislates. So there's the dominant notion that comes from the principle or the principality, and then the powers find a way of legislating it. And when I say legislation, is not the way humans judicially legislate things. The enemy has no respect of some particular things, but he has his own way of order and his own way of legislating, for that matter. And then it spills over into rulers of darkness of this age, which is actually the topic for today. And then you go to spiritual wickedness in high places. And let me just show you something. Spiritual wickedness in high places, by definition, are the minions or the ideas by the enterprise of evil that makes sure that the populace, the mass populace of people, are subjected and distracted by the common things of life. I think one day we shall do spiritual warfare in a proper way and then see how that works. So spiritual wickedness in high places, those are the things. it is in their order. They are designed to make sure the common population, because the way we read societal structures, most of the times, and this is the way the world has been forged. We read the world most of the times from a triangle perspective, So the ones who govern are in the smaller triangle at the top, and the rest of the population are at the bottom. So spiritual wickedness in high places have been given the responsibility to make sure that the entire major population of civilization, in whatever age, are stuck and confused or entrapped by the common ongoings of life, the distractions of life, if you could say so. But today I want to talk about rulers of darkness of this age, and I'll use the liberty of definition just to show us how it's broken down. Let me see if I can get another part of my notes. Here you are. So Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." So you can see already our coexistence or our survival instinct in the social structure already has been ushered a door of wrestling. So when you're in the market space as a principality or as a representative of God, you're already sort of like the door that are being opened for you have sentries, already have positioning, have militarizing you to expect ideas, concepts, products or services designed in boardrooms, facilitated by agendas that entertain a concept of wrestling. The word wrestling there actually means to vibrate, to struggle, to strike, to throw, to strike. It's militant, if you could say so. It's intense violence. So Paul says concerning things diabolical, we don't come into that stage with ignorance. Concerning the spiritual, I will not have you be ignorant. That's what Paul says. So we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against rulers. So let's look at that word rulers. The word rulers there, it means in the Greek is the word kosmokrator. Kosmokrator is a world ruler, it's true, or a principal ruler of a particular market segment, because we're talking about markets right now. When I say market segment, is more than just commerce. It could be market segment in terms of politics. Yeah, it could be market segment in terms of politics. Paul is telling us there is a kosmokrator that entertains particular diabolical ideas in the structure of things to be in charge of a particular cosmology of sorts of the politics world, cosmology of the education world, cosmology of the entertainment world, cosmology of whatever world you are in, if you could say so. So he says it's a ruler. Let's just say it's a ruler, somebody who rules, or somebody who governs, or somebody who is in charge. So nothing happens in that space without his knowledge, or sometimes without his machination. So just be aware. So by the time you're doing commerce or economics, it's not just commerce and economics the way we learned it in school. From a spiritual perspective, there is a kosmokrator who is in charge of that particular world of commerce, that particular world of politics, that particular world, who governs and makes sure there's a way the social structure there runs to benefit the evil one, or if you are now a child of God, runs to benefit the kingdom of God. So he says rulers of darkness. The word darkness there is what I'm interested in. The rulers of darkness. I've written some notes here. Rulers of darkness. The word darkness there is shadiness or obscurity, that which is not seen or hidden, or that which is a shadow. And that's the concept I want to sort of like entertain. A shadow, that which casts a shadow, and also that which produces error. It's, if you're in the software world, is like designing a program and deliberately prefiguring in that program bugs, introducing bugs by design. So there are market spaces where bugs are introduced spiritually by design, and they can be introduced to the level of products or services. That's how the enemy plays, to the level of products and services. So this is shadow of darkness. So rulers of darkness of this age is more than just rulers of darkness of this age, because the concept there of the word there, age. If you look at the word, the New Testament, there are two concepts of the word world. There's world where you say cosmos, the prince of this world. That's cosmos. And then the rulers of this age, that word age there, or world, is aion, because it's time-based. It is time-based. It seemingly suggests that this is an agenda driven by a deadline, an agenda driven by a season. So rulers of this age, of darkness of this age, meaning these rulers can be operating on a shift, because there's a time where the agenda of that age, of a particular age, will change. Are you understanding? So rulers of darkness of this age, so is rulers or cosmocrators of darkness, of error, if you could say so. Cosmocrators of error. That's why the title of this message today is the shadow of darkness, because Paul is telling us here, it's something dark, it's something obscure, it's something shadowy, but within that shadow it induces what? Error. So there are already markets which are designed already from the onset to or prefigured to have error in their operations, error in their governance, error in their legislation, error in design of products, and error in design of services. That's how markets work. Because there's a principal spirit called God, and there's a principal spirit called Satanas, or devil, or the prince of the world. And God's interest in the world is superior. It might not necessarily be popular, but it's superior. And the devil's interest in the world is inferior. And unfortunately, sometimes it's the one that gains more popularity. Are you understanding? Because God's interest in the world, let's say God's interest in the platform of the hierarchy of economics, is freedom or liberty. The enemy's interest in the world of economics is bondage. The enemy's interest in the world of economics is demand and supply. So there's hoarding to increase demand. God's interest in the world of economics is abundance. That's why most of us can't countenance the concepts of abundance in the current economy. I understand you can't countenance the concept of abundance in the current economy. God's interest in the hierarchy of economics is truth. The enemy's interest in the hierarchy of economics is the lie. Are you seeing this? So just roll back the video and get what I'm trying to put towards you, because it's going to help us. So the shadow of error. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the shadow of error. Spiritual wickedness. No, I'm talking about the rulers of darkness of this world. Rulers of darkness. There's the cosmocrator, or the ruler of darkness. Shadow or error of this world, of this age. So you might be in an industry that is age driven, which means the product or the service in that industry is seasonal or is designed to be there for a particular season. Are you understanding? And therefore you have to know how to use the principles of God to govern and extract, the benefit of the kingdom from that space. Because you see, God has delivered us from the enemy. But God has delivered us from the enemy. God has delivered us from the prince of the world. God has delivered us from the systems of the world. But he has allowed us or left us to be dealers in the world, but not be of the world. He has left us to be dealers in the systems of the world, but not be of the world. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So, the shadow of error, products, services, structures, governance, legislation of error are real and they're in market spaces. Sometimes our frustrations are not because we don't have enough capital. It would be that because you're a son of God who sheds light in a particular ecosystem of market, the resistance for you to thrive there comes because of how it is designed. How it is designed. So we need to be informed. Don't be ignorant of what is happening in those worlds. So I'm just thinking, some of my thoughts, I'm throwing them at you. So the shadow of error. So he says, I'll give an example. Let me give you some examples so that you can see what is happening here. Let me see if I can. Yeah. So there are products or services designed deliberately to disrupt competitors or strategically influence consumer behavior. How fair or unfair is that? Instead of just participating or competing on good product or liberty or freedom, we are participating around violent disruption. We are competing around strategically influence on consumer behavior. Most of you might not know, but in the previous years, let me begin from there. In the previous years, this would be the first web browser used to be called Netscape Navigator. You go and Google for those most likely who are Netscape Navigator. When Microsoft came onto the platform of the IT world, Microsoft introduced Internet Explorer. It bundled it with the Microsoft products. And Internet Explorer was free. Netscape Navigator came in, and Netscape was actually for sale. So actually you would buy the browser. Microsoft came and to establish its dominance. What did it do? Because it was giving you a platform called most computers were running on the OS of Microsoft. Microsoft bundled the software, the OS, in the computer spaces with this Internet Explorer for free. And that was the end of Netscape. And I know somebody wants to say, hey, come on, it was a new technology that came and it was overriding Netscape Navigator. Would you have been better just buying Netscape Navigator, or would you have been better as browsing the internet for free? We understand that the benefits of having had Internet Explorer at that particular time, but it normally comes sometimes with what? With something up the sleeves. But my point is to say that the competition there was a competition that was taking advantage strategically to influence consumer behavior towards Microsoft and every other thing that Microsoft was going to deliver, whether it was going to be good or evil. There's something called Amazon Basics. Amazon uses, or was using, as marketplace data, listen to this, to identify popular third-party products. Amazon using its marketplace data to identify popular third-party products, then going ahead to create competing products like Amazon Basics at a lower price point. Yeah, this therefore strategically redirects consumers towards what? Amazon's product. What has Amazon used? It has used leverage insights from its sellers to compete against its enemies, if you could say so, because marketplaces are actually war zones. So that it can introduce its influence users, consumer behavior to buy their products. We have Gillette, if you know Gillette, based on where you were born in this bigger globe of the world. Gillette historically releases a new razor systems that were incompatible with previous models. So previously you used to buy Gillette razors, and then it introduces new razor systems that are incompatible with previous models, forcing consumers into the ecosystem. This is the shadow of error, deliberately engineering error in the production of products or services so that the market so that we are trapped into a particular configuration to become continual or perpetual consumers of a particular product. I see that you have things like Walmart or supermarkets pricing certain popular items below cost to attract customers, then makes profit on other purchases once consumers are in the store. You find Quickmart or Naivas or Carrefour telling you, oh, come dash, there are these things that are going on offer. Once you enter into Carrefour, once you enter into Quickmart, I'm telling you, I think there's sort of like I don't know, some spiritual thing that happen in supermarkets. You go there, you want to go buy a product. You want to go buy supplies for 1,500. By the time you're leaving, you have left there 6,000. You've left there 10,000. You tell me if not the allurement or the seductive nature to influence certain behaviors, even the music that is played is induced to manipulate how you think, how you feel, so that you can do what, reach out to your wallet and buy things voluntarily. There was the case of Google Docs and Google Sheets. Google offered free alternatives to Microsoft Office, strategically undermining Microsoft's paid software model while steering users towards Google's cloud-based services and data collection model. Are you seeing that? That's now where the war is. The war is in data. The war is in algorithms. But these are supplied by how human beings behave. And then that behavior, most human beings are unable to tell if that behavior has inherently come from them, or that behavior has been stimulated by an algorithm. You have LinkedIn premium teaser features. LinkedIn shows users who's viewed their profile but requires a premium subscription to see everyone. Creating a psychological itch, users feel compelled to scratch through the app, and you upgrade as you go, because you feel like I'm being taken in a particular place. And you see, all these platforms, by the way, are very interesting platforms, because once you use them and you're part of the ecosystem, you're used to it, what happens? You're trapped. So somebody might suggest and say, no, but those are the benefits of having a free market. Companies competing aggressively through strategic product positioning and targeting competitors' vulnerabilities. But what are they targeting? They are targeting competitors' vulnerabilities. Where you are vulnerable, it means you are not in a point of strength. Targeting competitors' vulnerabilities could be viewed, so that people normally view it as normal competition. You see? But there are some ethical concerns or truthful concerns. Consumer choice is severely limited through monopolistic behavior. Deceptive practices mislead consumers about their options. And then we have something called the lock-in strategies, where you get in and you are locked in. The lock-in strategies impose unfair switching costs on consumers. Sometimes we'll encounter things like regulatory frameworks like antitrust laws, which exist precisely because society has determined some competitive tactics across ethical lines. So Microsoft's Internet Explorer at that time, bundling, for example, led to antitrust litigation because it was deemed anti-competitive. That's where we are headed, and that's where we are. You might be in some of those areas. Just know, if you're in some of those areas, this is how the economics of the market is structured, hierarchically. Spiritual wickedness of rulers of darkness of this age, the shadow of error. So, business ethicists often distinguish between competing aggressively but fairly versus deliberately misleading or manipulating consumers. So there's something in philosophy called vagueness and ambiguity, something that is vague and something that is ambiguous. And sometimes you'll find in terms and conditions, which most people don't read, you'll find the fine print is too much, And the human brain is already tired because some things are introduced that are vague or ambiguous. So there is no precising in defining these things to clear the definition of terms of engagement in services and products or market involvement, if you could say so. So regulators around the world continue to grapple with defining appropriate boundaries, particularly as technology creates new opportunities for market influence. The ongoing debates about app store policies, data usage practices, and platform favoritism are evolving ethical considerations. If you are in Africa, you will notice when you go to YouTube, when you want to use things like Stripe, when you want to use things like when you want to get in touch or when you want to get involved with markets that are deemed first or second world, you find the barriers of entry are designed to lock you out. And that's why I think even Africa should start thinking clinically about its demographic as a proper, introduce legislatively things that we are fighting for to get into the first world. Let us begin to create markets and help each other to be able to buy each other's services and products, so that we're not, when we feel like we are locked out, we have a whole big market to consume from our own continent and our own spaces. Governments ought to begin to think about creating African markets, West, North, East, Central, South Africa, all those markets, and begin to sort of like, for the sake of the population that is rising, especially now that we are going to be doing and dealing with things on virtual markets, we begin to do what? We begin to fund or design legislation that favors us first, as opposed to just telling people we shall create jobs. We're creating jobs. There are many young people, not just even young. There's a big population of Africans right now who are now tech savvy. Let's say so. Yeah, there's a big population of Africans right now who are tech savvy, and we can create our own Afrocentric economic universe. You can create our own Afrocentric economic universe, even that which mirrors the first world. We don't have to rethink excessively. We can even mirror the first world. We need to have excessive paying apps. We need to have a Stripe for Africa, the Flutter Waves, the PayHips. Is it PayHip? So we need to have African markets that favor Africans in the digital space, so that we stop complaining and whining about being locked out in other markets. We need to have African platforms for doing newsletters, African platforms for doing websites or blogs, African platforms for doing our own kind of YouTube, African platforms for doing our own Substacks, our own beehives, African platforms for doing for our own Etsy's, African platforms of doing our own Spotify's. We need to have those kind of things. And once we have those kind of things, this shadow of error will begin to mitigate. Churches or spiritual communities that have sometimes too much money to build cathedrals. A cathedral is going for around 300 million shillings. Why can't we put that 300 million shillings around the people who are willing to develop technological ideas to the benefit of African markets? Why can't we do that, so that we stop exporting labor? Not just exporting labor, but exporting cheap labor. So it looks like a rant, but I think I wanted to communicate and just talk about and explain to you about that thing of the shadow of error. Rulers of darkness of this age. The rulers of darkness of this age are here with an intention, are here with a purpose, are here for a reason. So we should not be ignorant of rulers of darkness of this age who are deliberately capitalizing on consumer vulnerabilities to introduce products or services that in themselves might have a form of error, obscurity, or shadiness or darkness to cut us off from participating or competing in these markets profitably and to the freedom of other human beings. So let's not be ignorant. When we say principalities, powers, rulers of darkness of this age, just remember that they are this thing called the shadow of error, rulers of darkness of this age. All markets are structured in such a manner to benefit humanity, but also they are diabolical principalities, powers, rulers, spiritual wickedness in high places, who have the sole design and desire to make sure that these marketplaces are stymied. They don't deliver freedom, they don't deliver truth, they don't deliver products that liberate humankind. So when you're participating in that market space, just know that if you're a manager or somebody in a company, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in a startup, whatever you are in the market space, and I say market space might not necessarily just be commerce only, it might also be politics, it might also be entertainment, we all need to be in that world knowingly by revelation. So that is my short rant, which is 32 minutes, short rant, the School of David. This is David of the School of David. So like this video, share it, distribute it, subscribe to the channel, and continue getting some of these things I'm sharing with us as far as the marketplace is concerned. Next time, I think I'll be dealing with the spirit of prophecy in the market. The spirit of prophecy in the market. The spirit of prophecy in the market. So this is David of the School of David. See you next time. God bless you.